What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like, subscribe as you tune into the channel, check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on the situation that's going on with the Atlanta Hawks and Trae Young, right? A lot of people are saying that the Atlanta Hawks are trying to move on from Trae Young, and some people even say that like Trae Young he wants to be out of Atlanta too. Like he might feel like he needs a new like new scenery. Excuse me, but and I can't say that I blame either side, like Trae Young or the Hawks for wanting to move on. I think a lot of teams are starting to like the style of play is changing around the league where and a guard like Trae Young, who is more so shoot first type of guard. You really can't, as a team, you really can't go too far, too deep with those kind of guards, because they are limited. And when you get into the playoffs and stuff like that, because Trae Young he's a small guard, so when you get into the playoffs, then you run into teams that are bigger and more athletic, and then he'll have a hard time scoring, right? And so everything that you was able to get away with like throughout the season, as far as like scoring and stuff like that, they just clamp down on that, and then he'll be easy work. That's part of the problem right there with having a small guard that is a shoot first guard. Then on top of that, like with Trae Young, like a lot of these guards is either they shoot the long jumper, which is that they shoot the three, or either they going all the way to the glass, right? So they don't really have a mid range game, and that kind of limits them too. And now you see that the better teams in the league, they have guys who can pull up for the mid range and shoot over their opponent. You got guys like Cade Cunningham. He's able to he'll shoot the three sometimes, and he'll go to the basket. But a lot of times he get to his spot, that mid range, and he pulling up and he's shooting over his opponent. Cade Cunningham probably is about like 6'6", at least he around 6'6", so he can shoot over guys. Then you got Shea Gilgeous, right? In OKC, he do the same thing. If he's open for the three, he'll take the three. But for the most part, he operates within like 15, 18 feet of that rim. Right. And so if you want to have success, you got to have guys who can score consistently in at that mid range. That's where the NBA is going back to, right? That mid range jumper where people can get their shot. Tyrese Halliburton, before he got injured, was a threat. You know what I mean? Because Tyrese could shoot that mid range, and that makes a big difference. Like because now you have to play the whole court. You don't just have to worry about, all right, so if he don't shoot that three, that means he going all the way to the rim. Not with these guys now. They pulling up for that mid range. You got the young guy, not just those guys that I mentioned, but you have it's a twin guy named you got Amen is in Houston. I think he around 6'7". His brother is in Detroit. He about the same size, about 6'7". They also have decent mid-range games. So these small guards, man, and these shoot first guards who don't really get anybody else on the floor involved, the NBA is going away from that. And I think the fans are even bored with that because, all right, after a while, you seen them, they break somebody down on a one-on-one. But if you can't win like that, fans gonna get bored with that, and they don't want to see it. Fans, are going back to watching guys who can really play basketball at all three levels, not just at the rim or the mid range and the three, but you got to have a guy that can score at all three levels. And a small guard like Trae he's just it's a big challenge for him to be able to score at all three levels. Now, if Trae Young was a point guard, he was like a pass first point guard. He would be a perfect pass first point guard because he can get anywhere on the court he wants, right? Because of his speed. and the way he moved. If he was a pass first point guard and he kept everybody on the court involved in the game, like old school point guards did, then Atlanta would be a better team. And they probably would try to hold on to him. Because I remember back in the days when you had a great pass first point guard, like teams didn't trade those guys. Like nobody would trade John Stockton. Like Utah wasn't going to get rid of John Stockton. Who else was the pass first? Like Avery Johnson. When Avery Johnson was at Senate with the Spurs, he was a pass first guard. They had to almost, they had to really insist that he shoot the ball because he wasn't shooting the ball. So teams was backing off of him, and that hurt the team. But he wound up working on his jump shot. Avery Johnson worked on his jump shot, his mid-range shot. So teams couldn't just back down on Dave Robinson and Tim Duncan and play off of him. So he made them, he made teams pay for not, so and that's what basketball should be like. Those pass first, like if you're a point guard, it's your job to keep those other four guys on the court. Make sure they get the ball in their right spots and make sure that offense is operating the way it should operate. Trae Young, like for a guard, man, I don't need my guard averaging 25 points a game. You can't have that kind of success like that, right? And so even same thing with like Ja Morant. Anytime you got a guard averaging, at any level, when you have a guard averaging 20 points a game, it's going to be hard for your team to have success. Then it's going to be hard for your team to go deep into the playoffs with a guard averaging 25 points a game. So that means that, and because these guards are high volume shooters, they're not efficient. They're not efficient ball players like like a Paul Pierce, or like I said, like Cade Cunningham, like guys who can shoot over a defender and still get a good look at the basket. Like who else? What's the guy name? Carmelo Anthony, right? Like Carmelo Anthony is 6'8". But he can get his shot off against against anybody and still get a good look. But Trae he might be 6 feet tall. And so if you only 6 feet tall and you the shoot first point guard, the league is changing. It's not, you're not going to win like that, being a shoot first point guard. And then you can't really, it's tough for you to get your shot off. I say the same thing about like Ja Morant. I think Ja Morant is about 6'2", right? But he's a shoot first guard. And all the highlights with you dunking on people and all that stuff, that's cool. But man, that point guard, like people need point guards to do what point guards did back in the day. And I think they would extend their careers. Like that's why I like that guy, what's his name? Drew Holiday. Right. And even the guy, I think Pritchard for the Boston Celtics, I think he get more time now. I think he even start. I like Pritchard, like those old school kind of point guards, Mike Bibby. Like if you leave them open, or if the opportunity presents itself, they're going to shoot. They are capable scorers, right? But yeah, somebody who's 6 feet tall can be. And I know Isaiah did it when he was with Detroit, but Isaiah, in my opinion, is the exception to the rule. Allen Iverson was a shoot first guard, right? And it was tough. He couldn't win that championship because look who he went against. He went against Kobe, Shaq, and all those guys. It just was too much length. And it was just so hard for him to score at only being 6'1". Kyrie Irving, when Kyrie was at Dallas at the Mavericks, he is at with Luka. When he got to the championship and he got up against that tough defense, man, it's just so hard as a shoot first guard, man. You got to be the kind of guard that's going to get into that paint, compromise, break that defense down, and then hit the open man. That's what guards used to do back in the day. They'd break that defense down, and they had just enough offensive talent, whereas though you had to respect their talent, right? and you collapse on them because they in that paint, they're going down that lane. You got to respect their scoring ability. And bam, they dish it off to the big man for an easy bucket. And teams know what's coming, right? Teams know what's coming, but you still got to respect it that, but if you're a shoot first guard and then people know that you're going to shoot the majority of the time, that's, it's going to be hard to win like that. And I think teams around the league are realizing that these shoot first guards, man, are not really, they're making your teams mediocre. And you could just point to so many guards. I'm not even going to name the guards around the league who just because they, they can score a little bit, think that they're doing something. They got to learn how to play the game. If you're a guard, you gotta be, as a point guard, man, you got to be able to get those other guys, those weapons on the court. You got to be able to get those guys involved in the game, and that's what it's coming down to. That's probably why the Hawks want to separate themselves from Trae Young, right? And guys, like guards are going to have to go back to being point guards because you can't have no success going deep into the playoffs if somebody that's 6'1" and below being your main guy. I think it's gonna be hard for the Knicks with Brunson. I don't know how tall Brunson is, but it's just he had to work so hard. They can't be efficient. It's so much they can't be efficient as a guy who is 6'6", 6'8", and can get his shot off against anybody, go around the big men, shoot over the small men. They just, because they just don't have the size for that. So they got to play the game the right way. I remember when Kenny Smith said that when he was in college, one game he really got off. He had a really good game scoring wise, right? And he was all happy after the game. They won and everything. But Dean Smith told him, man, he was like, look, I didn't bring you here for that. I got 4 other All-Americans on that court, man. He said, so it's your job as a point guard to keep those guys happy, and so that's what a point guard is, man. And he said he learned from then on out. That was, they taught guys how to play basketball back in the day. The point guard, and you want to show your skills and stuff, you can display them from time to time. Kenny Smith was a bad dude, but it's all about keeping those big guys on the court happy, man, and keeping them involved and mentally keeping them into the game. If they know they're not going to get the ball, who's going to keep running up and down the court knowing that, they just rebounding and passing the ball to you? Yeah. Very few guys going to do that, so that's my take on it. Y'all make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'm going to check y'all out in the next video. Peace.